Have you ever wondered why you can silence the world, but not the voice inside your own skull? Why your breath slows down, your room is quiet, yet your mind attacks you with fear, noise, and endless negative thinking? What if I told you a truth Buddhism rarely says aloud? You don't overthink because life is hard. You overthink because you never learned to face the part of you that fears life. The mind becomes an enemy only when you refuse to meet it. Before we begin, subscribe to Deep Wisdom, your doorway to calm clarity and rare Buddhist insights. Today, you will learn 10 Buddhist teachings that can quiet your mind, control emotions, stop overthinking, and even empty your mind. But the final lesson, the one waiting at the end, is the teaching monks share only when a seeker is finally ready. Tell me, are you ready? 1. Tame the horse before it drags you. Imagine this gently. A mind running faster than your breath, racing ahead into fears that haven't happened, rehearsing worries that were never invited. Now ask yourself, if your mind can run in any direction, what stops it from running away with your entire life? This is the first teaching. The old masters said, the mind is a servant until you allow it to become a master. And for many of us, somewhere between childhood innocence and adult responsibility, the servant quietly took the throne. Overthinking begins exactly there, when the mind stops listening and starts leading. Buddhist wisdom compares an untamed mind to a wild horse, beautiful, powerful, full of potential, yet dangerous when allowed to gallop without reins. A wild horse will not ask where you wish to go, it will simply run. And so will your thoughts. They sprint into imagined futures, dive into old wounds, and drag you across emotional landscapes you never chose. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself standing in a quiet field at dusk. The air is cool, the sky fading into deep gold. Before you stands the horse of your mind, breathing, restless, waiting. You lift the reins gently, not to force, but to guide. Feel the shift, the steadiness, the sense that you are returning home to yourself. Because mastery, in Buddhism, is never about domination. It is about compassion, clarity, and intentional direction. Think of your own life. What part of your mind has been dragging you instead of guiding you? Is it the constant worry about the future? The fear of making the wrong choice? The habit of replaying old memories like a broken record? Ask yourself softly, where did I lose the reins of my inner world? The moment you identify it is the moment you begin reclaiming control. In modern life, the wild horse appears in many forms: career pressure, relationship confusion, emotional overwhelm, the relentless need to prove yourself. But remember this, it is not the world that creates the noise. It is the mind that chooses whether to follow it. Each time you pause, each time you breathe, each time you question your thoughts instead of believing them blindly, you tighten the reins with wisdom, not force. And here lies the quiet power of this teaching. The horse is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally, once tamed with awareness. Because the mind does not become peaceful when life changes. It becomes peaceful when you stop obeying its chaos. So reflect deeply. What would mastery feel like? Not as power, but as peace. Because in the end, the strongest mind is not the loudest, it's the one that listens to you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My stillness attracts everything." 2. Detach from the thought, not the life. Overthinking often feels like a storm, loud and swirling, as if life itself is shaking you. But pause for a moment and ask yourself gently, what if overthinking isn't the storm at all? but the attachment that multiplies it. In Buddhist wisdom, it is said, suffering begins where clinging begins. Not at the thought itself, but at the moment you grab it, hold it, analyze it, and let it shape your emotions as if it were truth. Imagine your thoughts as birds passing overhead. Some fly quickly, some circle a little longer, some look unusual or frightening. But notice, none of them are meant to stay. Overthinking happens when you build a nest for every bird, inviting each one to live inside your mind. Suddenly, your inner sky becomes crowded, heavy, noisy. But life becomes lighter the moment you stop turning temporary thoughts into permanent residence. Take a slow breath. Visualize this clearly. Each thought that rises in your mind is like a feather drifting through air. It floats near you, glimmers for a moment, then continues downward. You don't need to catch it. You don't need to protect it. You don't need to explain it. Watch it fall, watch it settle. Let your mind learn the art of gentle witnessing instead of emotional gripping. This is the difference between detachment and indifference. Buddhism never asks you to detach from life, only from the unnecessary stories you add to it. Reflect softly. Which thoughts do you keep building nests for? Maybe it's the fear of failing. Maybe it's a memory that still echoes. Or perhaps a future scenario you replay in secret, hoping to feel prepared. The question is not whether thoughts will arise, they always will, but whether you allow each one to anchor itself into your heart. Because every nest you build becomes another home for worry. Ask yourself with honesty, what is one thought you can allow to simply pass today? Not fight it, not deny it, not analyze it, just let it float by. Imagine the space this would create inside you. Imagine the lightness. Imagine how life would feel without emotional glue binding you to every mental story your mind invents. And here lies the quiet transformation. You don't quiet the mind by controlling every thought. You quiet it by loosening your grip. Thoughts lose their power the moment you stop becoming their caretaker. They're just visitors, not your identity. When you let them pass, you reclaim the sky of your inner world. Because peace is not found in having fewer thoughts, but in refusing to let them build their homes inside you. Stop lifting every stone in your path. Overthinking often feels like a weight you cannot name, yet you carry it every single day. But ask yourself with quiet honesty, what if most of your exhaustion comes not from life, but from picking up everything that appears in your mind? There is an old teaching that whispers, not every stone on the road is meant to be carried. But the mind, when left unchecked, scatters stones across your inner path, and without realizing it, you stop walking and start collecting. You pick up a worry about the future, then a memory you wish you could rewrite, then a fear about what others think, another doubt, another regret. Soon, your arms are full, your breath is heavy, and you wonder why peace feels so distant. But peace was never the problem. The problem was the habit of stopping your journey for every stone your mind throws at your feet. Close your eyes gently. Imagine yourself walking through a quiet forest trail. Sunlight filters through the leaves. The wind carries the smell of earth and calmness. Along the path lie scattered stones of different shapes and sizes. Thoughts, opinions, fears, expectations. Instead of bending down, you simply step over them. You don't pause, you don't collect, you don't weigh them. You keep walking, feel that freedom. The mind becomes lighter the moment you stop giving every thought the importance of a burden. Reflect softly. What unnecessary stones have you been carrying? Maybe the stone of comparing yourself to others. Maybe the stone of replaying conversations that no longer matter. Maybe the stone of imagining problems that have not yet arrived. Each one adds weight you were never meant to hold. Then ask yourself, which one will you place down first? Not all of them, just one. Start with the heaviest, the thought that reappears every morning, the doubt that steals your sleep, the expectation that drains your spirit. Place it down, quietly, without argument. Notice how your hands feel empty, how your chest feels spacious. This is the truth. Life was never meant to be a collection of mental stones. It was meant to be a path, a movement, a gentle unfolding. And when you stop lifting everything the mind offers, you stop hoarding emotional weight that was never yours. So reflect deeply. How much lighter would your life feel without the habit of mental hoarding? When you choose to walk instead of carry, you rediscover the peace that was waiting beneath your steps all along. 4. Return to the now, where silence lives. If the present moment is always peaceful, then why do we keep escaping into time? This is the quiet paradox of the mind. It leaves the one place where silence lives, and then wonders why it cannot find peace. The masters often said, "The mind is loud only when it leaves the moment, and when you look closely, you realize it's true." The noise begins the moment you drift into memories or race into imagined futures. Peace was never lost. It was simply abandoned. Think of the present moment as a still lake. When you stand beside it, calm and steady, you see the world clearly. Your reflection, the sky, the trees, the truth. But the past is a wind that stirs the surface, distorting everything. The future is another wind, stronger, pulling ripples outward. When both winds blow, the lake becomes restless. But the lake itself is not the problem, only the winds are. And each time your mind wanders, you're inviting another gust. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel your ribs expand like the gentle rise of dawn. Now visualize your breath smoothing the surface of a lake. One inhale, the ripples soften. One exhale, the water becomes glass. Let this image sink into you. The present moment does not ask you to be perfect, certain, or in control. It simply asks you to show up, to return, to be here, even for a moment. Ask yourself softly, where does your mind travel when it's trying to run away from itself? Does it dive back into old pain, replaying scenes you've already survived? Or does it rush forward into fears that haven't even happened? Past pain pulls you backward, future fear pulls you forward, but neither can touch you when you stand fully in the now. Look inward for a moment. What pain lives in the past? What fear lives in the future? Notice how thinking about them immediately tightens your chest, speeds your thoughts, clouds your clarity. But now, pause. Take one conscious breath. Sit with yourself for just 10 seconds. Feel how everything softens. Your shoulders, your thoughts, your heartbeat. This is the magic hidden in plain sight. When you choose the now, even briefly, your mind stops running and begins listening. The world quiets, the inner winds fade, and the lake inside you returns to stillness. This is where silence lives, not in escape, not in control, but in presence. So return, again and again, to the only place your peace has ever waited, this moment, this breath, this now. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My stillness attracts everything." 5. Fear falls. When the self isn't solid. Fear feels so real, so heavy, so convincing. Yet pause for a moment and ask yourself, what if most of your fears exist because you're protecting someone who isn't actually real? Buddhist wisdom reminds us gently, Fear clings to the idea of me. The tighter you hold onto a fixed identity, the more the world seems like a threat. The more you believe you must defend yourself, the louder fear becomes. Picture this clearly. Fear is a shadow. You only see it when you believe there is something solid casting it. When the self feels rigid, my reputation, my image, my past, my status, my story, the shadow grows long and dark. But when the self softens, loosens, becomes less of a wall and more of a flowing river, the shadow begins to fade. Fear cannot follow something that keeps changing shape. Close your eyes for a moment. Visualize the version of yourself you cling to, the one that must always be strong, or liked, or successful, or flawless. Now imagine that version slowly dissolving like smoke in warm air. The edges blur, the structure loosens, the form thins. And with each breath, the shadows that once frightened you begin to disappear. Notice the lightness that enters. Notice the space that opens. Fear weakens when the self is not a statue, but a breeze. Reflect gently. What identity are you afraid to lose? The identity that says you must never fail. The one that believes you must be perfect? The one that fears judgment? These identities are temporary costumes the mind wears, yet you spend your whole life defending them as if they are permanent. Ask yourself softly, if the self is temporary, what are you truly protecting? A thought, a memory, a label? The truth is, fear rises to defend something that does not need defending. When you loosen your grip on who you think you must be, you become free to simply be. And in that freedom, fear loses its structure. It has nothing solid to attach to. It becomes a passing cloud rather than a prison wall. Now reflect deeply. Who would you be without fear's shadow following you? A mind not chained to identity becomes naturally calm. A heart not guarding false selves becomes naturally peaceful. This is the quiet liberation Buddhism offers. When the self is not solid, fear cannot stand. You become spacious, fluid, unburdened, like sky that no shadow can cover. 6. Change the soil, not the storm. Overthinking often convinces you that emotions are storms, wild, overpowering, and beyond your control. But look closer and ask yourself softly, what if emotions don't control you? Your attachment to them does. Buddhist wisdom whispers, what grows inside you depends on the soil you nourish. It isn't the emotion itself that overwhelms you. It's the inner environment you've been feeding it with. Imagine emotions as tiny seeds. Anger, fear, doubt, insecurity. They are seeds scattered by life, by memory, by habit. But a seed only grows when it finds fertile soil. Identification is that soil. The moment you say, this is my fear, this is my sadness, this is who I am, the seed takes root. But if the soil is removed, even the strongest emotion cannot grow. Without the inner nourishment of attachment, a storm becomes nothing more than passing weather. Close your eyes gently. Visualize a simple clay pot in your hands. Inside is old soil, dry, hardened, shaped by years of beliefs, wounds, and labels. I'm not enough. People always leave. I must please everyone. I shouldn't fail. Now imagine yourself slowly scooping this soil out, handful by handful. Feel the relief as the weight disappears. Then, see yourself pouring fresh, clean earth into the pot, soil made of self-kindness, understanding, spaciousness, and truth. Notice how the entire energy changes. This is the inner transformation Buddhism points toward, not fighting the storm, but changing the ground it lands on. Reflect gently. Which emotions grow strongest in you? Is it anxiety that sprouts at the smallest trigger? Is it sadness that returns like an old friend? Is it anger that flares before you can breathe? Now ask, what soil feeds them? Perhaps it's an old belief you've never questioned. Perhaps it's a wound you still carry quietly. Perhaps it's a story your mind repeats out of habit, not truth. And now, the most important question. What soil are you ready to change today? You don't need to transform everything at once. Start with one belief, one wound, one label you no longer want to nourish. Replace it with gentleness. Replace it with awareness. Replace it with the understanding that emotions aren't enemies. They're visitors who depend on your soil to stay. When you change the soil, the storms lose their power. The mind becomes clearer. The heart becomes lighter. And overthinking dissolves because there is nothing left inside you clinging to the storm. This is the quiet shift that begins inner peace, not controlling emotions, but transforming the space where they grow. 7. Silence arrives when you stop arguing with your mind. Overthinking often feels like an inner battlefield, thoughts clashing, emotions rising, arguments looping endlessly. But pause and consider this. What if the real battle isn't the mind, but your insistence on debating it? There is a quiet truth in Buddhist wisdom that says, not every voice in you requires a conversation. Yet the mind speaks, and you immediately respond. It questions, and you defend. It doubts, and you explain. It fears, and you negotiate. And in all this arguing, silence has no space to enter. Imagine your mind as a radio. It plays different stations: worry, doubt, judgment, fear, memory, planning. Each one broadcasts its own noise. But silence doesn't come from smashing the radio or fighting the sound. Silence comes when you change the station. The problem isn't that the mind produces noise, it's that you keep tuning in. You keep giving attention to every voice as if it holds authority over your life. But inner freedom begins the moment you learn to listen without engaging. Close your eyes. Visualize a small dial inside your mind. It's glowing softly, waiting for your touch. With one deep breath, imagine yourself turning the dial. The static begins to soften, the chattering voices fade. The endless commentary dissolves into a gentle hum, and then into quiet. Feel that moment. The moment when the mind stops being an opponent and becomes simply a passing sound. This is the peace that arises not from control, but from non-engagement. Reflect with honesty. Which inner voices do you argue with the most? The voice that tells you you're not enough? The one that warns you of outcomes that never arrive? The one that replays old mistakes? The one that fears judgment? Notice how each argument drains your energy without changing anything. Now ask yourself gently, what if you stopped answering them? What if you let the voice speak and simply walked away internally? Inner silence is not the absence of thoughts. It is the absence of your response to them. The mind is allowed to speak, just as clouds are allowed to pass across the sky. But you do not have to follow every cloud. You do not have to chase every storm. This is the awakening Buddhism offers. Peace comes when you stop entering conversations that lead nowhere. So consider quietly, what dialogue can you end today? Maybe it's the argument with fear. Maybe it's the negotiation with self-doubt. Maybe it's the rehearsal of conversations that never happened. When you stop debating your mind, you stop feeding the noise. And in that simple act, silence returns, naturally, effortlessly, like dawn returning after a long night. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My stillness attracts everything." 8. Let go of the need to control what lives inside you. Control feels powerful. Control feels safe. Yet ask yourself gently, what if control is the very thing creating your inner chaos? In Buddhism, there is a quiet insight that reveals trying to control the mind is the mind pretending to be still. It sounds wise, it sounds disciplined, but beneath it lies tension, a tightening, a gripping, a silent war against yourself. And where there is war, peace cannot enter. Imagine standing beside a lake. Its surface is disturbed, ripples, waves, movement. Now picture yourself trying to smooth the water with your hands. You reach forward, pressing and sweeping, trying desperately to calm it. But the more you touch it, the more the surface shakes. This is what happens when you try to control your thoughts. The more you interfere, the more the mind resists. The more you push, the louder it becomes. Calmness is not created through pressure. It emerges when you stop touching the water. Close your eyes softly. Visualize yourself stepping back from the lake. Take one step, then another, and another. Notice what happens. Without your hands disturbing it, the water begins to settle on its own. The ripples soften. The surface becomes quietly reflective. This is the nature of the mind. It knows how to return to stillness once you stop trying to force it there. Now reflect gently. Where do you grip too tightly within yourself? Perhaps you cling to the need to always feel in control. Perhaps you demand that your mind stay calm, or that your emotions behave, or that your thoughts stay quiet. That grip creates pressure, and pressure creates turbulence. But what happens if you loosen the inner fist by just 1%? A single breath, a single softening, a single moment of letting things be as they are. Notice how even imagining that loosening brings a hint of relief. Effortless peace is not passive, it is receptive. It is the willingness to allow thoughts to rise and fall without your interference. It is the understanding that silence grows from spaciousness, not from control. Ask yourself, what would effortless peace look like for you? Maybe it feels like breathing without expectation. Maybe it feels like allowing yourself to feel without labeling the emotion. Maybe it feels like trusting that your mind, like the lake, knows how to settle when you give it space. This is the gentle invitation of Buddhist wisdom. Step back, loosen your grip, allow the mind to calm itself. When you stop trying to control what lives inside you, peace arrives, not as an achievement, but as a natural returning, like still water remembering its own nature. 9. Notice the space between thoughts. Overthinking convinces you that your mind is an endless stream of noise. But pause for a moment and ask yourself softly, what if the silence you seek is already present, hidden between every thought? Buddhist wisdom reminds us, peace is not created, it is revealed. Silence isn't something you manufacture, it's something you uncover by noticing what has always been there. Imagine your thoughts as stars in a night sky. They sparkle, they move, they draw your attention. Some are bright with emotion, some faint with memory, some heavy with fear. But look beyond the stars, into the vast darkness surrounding them. That space, the one you rarely pay attention to, is where the real universe lives. Your mind is the same. Thoughts are tiny flickers, but the space between them is infinite, still untouched. This is where inner peace hides, waiting for your awareness to find it. Close your eyes gently, Watch your mind for a moment. A single thought rises. Maybe a worry, maybe a fragment of memory. Let it come. Don't resist it. And now, notice what happens just after it fades. There is a pause, a soft, quiet moment before the next thought appears. That pause is not emptiness. It is presence. It is awareness. It is you. Reflect with honesty. Have you ever felt the gap between thoughts? It might have happened during a deep breath, a moment of awe, a sunset, or even in a sudden moment of stillness before sleep. In those moments, the mind wasn't empty. It was spacious. You weren't thinking, you were simply being. And in that being, there was no fear, no pressure, no overthinking, just existence. Now ask yourself gently, what if that gap is who you really are? Not the racing thoughts, not the inner stories, not the mental noise, but the open space that holds everything without being disturbed by anything. When you shift your identity from the stars to the sky, from the thoughts to the space between them, overthinking loses its grip. You become the observer, not the storm. Take one slow breath. Notice the thought that comes. Then notice the quiet that follows. How long can you rest in that small, eternal space? 1 second? 2? Over time, that space begins to expand. Silence grows not by pushing thoughts away, but by resting in the awareness that surrounds them. This is the secret hidden in plain sight. The peace you search for doesn't need to be built. It only needs to be seen. And it lives in the vastness between every single thought. Observe the mind instead of becoming it. What if the moment you observe a thought, it loses its power over you? This is the quiet secret at the heart of Buddhist practice. What you watch cannot rule you. A thought only dominates when you step inside it, when you wear it like a costume and call it yourself. But the moment you stand outside it, even for a breath, it becomes just a passing cloud instead of a storm. Imagine a fire burning intensely. When you stand inside it, everything feels overwhelming, consuming, urgent. But take one gentle step outside, and suddenly the flames become something you can see without being harmed. Thoughts are no different. They burn only when you stand inside them. Step outside, and they become simple sparks dancing in the open air. Visualize your mind as a small hut made of dry wood. Inside it, thoughts flicker like flames, worries, memories, expectations, fears. Many days, you sit inside this burning hut, believing you have no way out. But in truth, the door has always been open. Now picture yourself stepping out of it. Feel the cool night air. Watch the hut from a distance. Notice how peaceful everything becomes when you're not trapped inside the fire of your own thoughts. Reflect deeply. Which thoughts do you become instead of observe? Maybe it's the voice that says you're not enough, the anxiety that imagines worst outcomes, or the anger that rises without warning. These thoughts grow powerful only when you merge with them. But the moment you watch them, without judgment, without dialogue, they lose their fuel. Observation starves the fire. Ask yourself softly, what happens the moment you watch instead of react? A space appears. A quiet breath enters. You become less entangled, less controlled, less shaken. The mind may continue talking, but now you are no longer the one speaking. You are the listener. You are the witness. And in this final reflection, meet the deepest truth. Who is the watcher within you? There is a presence behind every thought, a spacious awareness that has never been touched by worry, fear, or doubt. This awareness is calm, ancient, and unchanging. It doesn't fight thoughts, it simply sees them. and what is seen can no longer rule you. When you remember this watcher, this quiet observer within you, overthinking dissolves. Thoughts come and go, but you remain untouchable, steady, and free. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "My stillness attracts everything." 11. Drop the story, keep the wisdom. What if the pain you carry is not from what happened, but from the story you kept repeating long after the moment was gone? In Buddhist wisdom, it said, "Stories extend suffering far beyond the moment." A single experience may have hurt you once, but the mind, restless, protective, and afraid, retells it 1,000 times, turning a single wound into a lifelong ache. Imagine being pricked by a single thorn. The pain is sharp but brief. Yet the mind doesn't leave it there. The mind collects the thorn, studies it, labels it, and then stores it in a bag with all the other thorns from your past. Soon, you aren't just carrying one moment. You're carrying years of moments, all stitched together into a story you believe defines you. But what if it never did? Visualize yourself removing a single thorn from your foot. Feel the relief as it leaves your skin. Then notice the heavy bag of old thorns slung over your shoulder, the replayed arguments, the betrayals, the regrets, the disappointments you've narrated for years. See yourself loosening your grip on that bag. Watch it slip from your hands, hear it fall to the earth. Notice how instantly lighter you become when you let go of what your mind insisted you must carry. Reflect gently. Which story do you keep telling yourself? Is it the story of not being enough? The story of being unwanted, unseen, or unloved? The story that everyone else is ahead of you? These stories sound familiar because your mind has repeated them so often that they feel like truths. But stories are not truths. They're interpretations built from fear, memory, and emotion. Now ask yourself, what wisdom remains if you drop the narrative? Beneath the story, there is always something pure, an insight about your strength, your resilience, or your capacity to grow. The story creates pain, the wisdom creates freedom. When you drop the narrative, the lesson remains, but the suffering dissolves. Then comes the final question. Are you willing to walk without carrying old thorns? The path ahead is clear, the past is behind you, and the moment you stop narrating your wounds, you begin experiencing your life, not through the weight of old stories, but through the freshness of this breath, this step, this moment. Bonus lesson. Quiet the mind by returning to the one who hears it. What if the deepest peace you seek is not found by quieting the mind, but by returning to the one who hears it? In Buddhist wisdom, there is a simple yet profound reminder. The awareness behind the mind has never been disturbed. Thoughts may roar like storms, emotions may surge like waves, but the awareness witnessing all of this remains untouched, silent, open, unchanged. It has been with you since the very beginning, long before any story, fear, or identity could form. Imagine the sky on a stormy day. Dark clouds gather, winds howl, rain pours, but the sky itself is never harmed. It does not break, it does not panic, it does not fight the weather passing through it. The sky simply allows. Awareness is just like that. Your thoughts are the passing clouds, some light and pleasant, others heavy and loud, but none of them define the sky they move through. Visualize yourself sitting beneath an endless open sky. Feel the ground beneath you, solid and steady. Watch clouds drift overhead. Some move fast, some linger, some look dark enough to pour. But notice something. The sky behind them never changes. It does not shrink when clouds appear. It does not celebrate when they part. It simply is. Now bring that same understanding inward. Your awareness is the sky. Your thoughts are the clouds. And no matter how crowded or stormy the sky becomes, the vastness behind it remains untouched. Reflect softly. Who is the one noticing your mind right now? Noticing itself is evidence that you are not the noise. You are the one who hears it. You are the quiet, witnessing all movement without becoming it. Ask yourself gently, has awareness ever been harmed by thought? Thoughts may have hurt your heart, shaken your peace, or shaped your beliefs. But the awareness watching them has always stood untouched, like clear space behind every cloud. And now, the most important question. What would life feel like if you lived as the sky, not the clouds? What would anxiety feel like if you were the watcher, not the thinker? What would fear become if you no longer stood inside the storm, but beneath it, observing it rise and fall on its own? This is the doorway to deep inner quiet, not by fighting the mind, but by remembering you were never the noise. You were always the silent sky behind it. Quick summary of each principle. Tame the horse before it drags you. An undisciplined mind creates unnecessary chaos and emotional noise. Training your attention gives you authority over thoughts instead of being controlled by them. When you guide your mind, your life becomes simpler, clearer, and more peaceful. Mastery begins by noticing when your mind starts to run without your permission. Detach from the thought, not the life. Overthinking happens when you cling to thoughts instead of letting them flow naturally. The suffering comes from emotional attachment, not the thought itself. Detachment gives you distance, clarity, and freedom. When you stop giving thoughts power, they lose their grip on your inner world. Stop lifting every stone in your path. Mental exhaustion comes from engaging with every idea, worry, and scenario your mind creates. Not every thought deserves attention, and you don't have to respond to each one. Learning to ignore the unnecessary quiets the inner noise. Your energy rises when you stop picking up what was never meant to be carried. Return to the now, where silence lives. The mind becomes loud when it leaves the present moment and enters memory or imagination. Returning to now instantly reduces mental noise and emotional overwhelm. Presence breaks the cycle of fear and regret. Peace is found in the breath and the simplicity of this very moment. Fear falls. When the self isn't solid, most overthinking is rooted in fear, fear of loss, failure, or judgment. Fear weakens when you see the self you're protecting is not fixed or permanent. Understanding the fluid nature of identity reduces anxiety automatically. When the ego softens, fear loses its foundation. Change the soil, not the storm. Emotions arise from the beliefs, wounds, and labels you hold within you. Trying to fight emotions makes them stronger. Changing their inner source weakens them. Shift your internal conditions and emotions naturally soften. Inner peace emerges when identification and resistance dissolve. Silence arrives when you stop arguing with your mind. Inner conflict grows when you debate every thought, worry, or fear. You don't need to respond to every voice inside you. Stopping the inner argument brings immediate calm. Your power comes from choosing silence over unnecessary mental dialogue. Let go of the need to control what lives inside you. The urge to control your mind creates more resistance, tension, and stress. Real peace arises when you stop forcing the mind to behave in a certain way. Acceptance softens internal chaos and create space for clarity. Relaxing your grip is often the beginning of true mental stillness. Notice the space between thoughts. Between every thought, there is a natural gap of silence and stillness. This gap reveals the peaceful awareness beneath mental activity. Noticing this space trains your mind to rest rather than react. The more you rest in these pauses, the quieter the mind becomes. Observe the mind instead of becoming it. When you observe your thoughts, you create distance between you and your mental patterns. This shift removes the emotional charge of intrusive or negative thoughts. You regain control by watching instead of reacting. The observer in you is calm, stable, and untouched by mental noise. Drop the story, keep the wisdom. Pain often continues because of the story you repeat, not the event itself. Letting go of the narrative reduces emotional suffering dramatically. Wisdom remains even when the story is released. Freedom begins when you stop reliving old wounds through inner dialogue. Return to the one who hears the mind. Behind all thoughts, emotions, and inner noise is a quiet, unchanging awareness. This witnessing presence is never disturbed, it only observes. Connecting with it dissolves overthinking and fear. You remember that thoughts come and go, but the awareness watching them is eternal. In the end, the mind will continue producing thoughts. This is simply its nature. But your freedom begins the moment you stop treating those thoughts as commands. When you see them as temporary movements instead of absolute truths, a new space opens within you. A space where peace begins to rise naturally. Zen teaches that true calm is not something you create. It's something you uncover when you stop interfering with your own inner silence. Remember this timeless insight. The quieter you become, the more you can hear. Your mind whispers guidance when it is no longer drowning in noise, and your life transforms when you return to the awareness beneath every fear, story, and thought. Tonight, choose to live from that stillness. Choose to walk through life not as the storm, but as the sky that holds it all without being shaken. If this message brought clarity to your heart, remind viewers to like and share this video, share your opinion in the comment box, and subscribe to Deep Wisdom for more inspiring Buddhist insights on living a peaceful life.